My name is Andrew Copson. I'm the Chief Executive of Humanists UK and the current President of Humanists International. Humanists UK is the national organisation that for the last 125 years has advocated on behalf of the non-religious for their freedom of belief, freedom of conscience and their equal rights. Humanists International does the same job globally and is the umbrella body for humanist organisations across the world, a fast-growing movement. Humanists are people who have a non-religious worldview. The humanist approach to life is one that sees the universe as a natural phenomenon with no supernatural side, a universe that doesn't have any discernible purpose or meaning of its own, but instead humanists see that it's human beings that give meaning and purpose and fulfillment to our own lives. Humanists put human welfare and human fulfillment and the welfare of other suffering animals at the centre of our morality. This means that humanists have often been defenders of and protectors of human rights. One of my favourite humanist philosophers is John Stuart Mill, the 19th century liberal philosopher, and he said, "Human nature is not a machine to be built after a model and set to do exactly the work prescribed for it, but a tree which requires to grow and develop itself on all sides, according to the tendency of the inward forces which make it a living thing." That is really what freedom of thought, conscience and religion or belief is about for me. It's the freedom for us all to shape our own lives in accordance with our own developing values and convictions and beliefs and opinions without external constraint, apart from the same constraint that everyone must give into in a liberal society, which is the rights and freedoms of others. We all want to be free to do this. And in the modern world of human rights, it's Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that puts this into practice. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. The humanist approach to life is an example of a belief in the meaning of the Universal Declaration, and that's the way in which the protection of humanist opinions has made its way into international law. The word belief in human rights law means something quite big. It's not just, a little belief in this, a little belief in that. It refers to a worldview, a comprehensive approach to life, and that's what the humanist approach to life is for many non-religious people around the world. What Article 18 protects is the full diversity of human experience, and it means that no one can hold you back from that personal development. Not the law, not religious institutions or leaders, not your parents, and not the state. Every individual human being has the right to the development of their own religion or belief, thought or opinion. Humanists and other non-religious people around the world are discriminated against in a great number of ways today, ranging from the relatively mild, having their children shut out from access to state-funded schools, having their citizenship on a lower level than the citizenship of people with religious beliefs, to the very, very severe. In some countries, to set up a humanist organisation is a crime. To declare yourself non-religious on any official forms is also unlawful. And in some countries, being non-religious, and specifically often leaving a religion to become non-religious, which is a protected human right of every human being in this world, can be punishable by death. Gulay Ismail is a feminist, human rights activist and humanist organiser from Pakistan. Accused of sedition under anti-terrorism laws, she was first detained in 2018 as she returned to Islamabad from a Humanists International meeting in Birmingham. When she spoke at a protest in May 2019 criticising the police's slow action in investigating the rape and murder of a 10-year-old girl, she was arrested, and although she was released on bail, her passport was confiscated. Assisted by Humanists International, she escaped Pakistan and fled to the United States and is on track to be granted asylum there. Avijit Roy and Bonya Ahmed were husband and wife humanist bloggers in Bangladesh. While walking back from the Dhaka book fair, they were set upon by members of a local Islamist group wielding machetes and cleavers. A local Islamist group had produced a death list of humanist bloggers that they wanted to eliminate. Avijit was hacked to death, and Bonya survived the attack, but lost a thumb and was severely traumatised. Dr. Narendra Dabolkar was a humanist activist and rationalist in India. He worked in favour of equality for Dalits, against caste discrimination, as many humanist activists in India have, and criticised many godmen and those who proffered miracle cures. While he was out on a walk in 2013, he was shot dead by 2 gunmen in a planned assassination. 7 years later, the investigation into his murder remains incomplete, and more humanist activists have been murdered with impunity. Mubarak Bala is the president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria. Without serious charge, without trial, and without access to his legal team or his family, he's been held in isolation in Kano State, imprisoned since April 2020. Humanist UK helps non-religious people who've been discriminated against or persecuted domestically in a number of ways. First of all, by working actively with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which has a good track record of promoting freedom of religion and belief. Secondly, by advocating in our own jurisdiction, where laws are still heavily in favour of the Christian religion, for those laws to change, to bring equality on grounds of religion or belief in this country. And also by helping asylum seekers and refugees who are fleeing persecution because of their humanist beliefs to gain asylum in the UK. Humanists International is very active at the international institutions, the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, but also the Council of Europe, the African Commission for Human and People's Rights, and other global regional bodies, to make sure that the non-religious are clearly included in all conferences and protections and conventions that try to protect the right to freedom of religion or belief. Because of history or present-day prejudice, non-religious people are often excluded from the protection of that right in a lot of jurisdictions. And Humanists International, as well as advocating in the international institutions for those people's rights, also supports humanist organisations on the ground. Human rights activists who are pressing for freedom of religion and belief in Africa and in Asia in particular, but also humanist organisations that may be struggling to start up in very hostile environments and need international support in order to exercise the freedom that international human rights treaties have guaranteed them, but is so often denied to them in practice. Humanists are not only interested in protecting the freedom of belief of non-religious people, humanists have a commitment to the human rights and to the freedom of thought, conscience and religion and belief of all people. And this universal nature of this freedom is an important part of the humanist commitment. That's why humanists prefer to see these issues through the framework of universal human rights in the international treaties. That's why Article 18, which guarantees freedom of religion or belief, is so important to humanists. And it's not just important because humanists have a commitment to individual freedom. A humanist view of human life is also one that celebrates the rich diversity that human freedom leads to. Human freedom naturally leads to a diversity of thought and opinion. And a diversity of thought and opinion is one of the best ways to guarantee human progress. It's also something beautiful in its own right to be celebrated as far as the humanist is concerned. And I'd like to finish with another quote from John Stuart Mill that I think reflects that. It isn't by wearing down into uniformity all that is individual in themselves, but by cultivating it and calling it forth, that human beings become a noble and beautiful object of contemplation. And as the works partake the character of those who do them, by the same process human life also becomes rich, diversified and animating, making the whole infinitely better worth belonging to. In proportion to the development of his individuality, each person becomes more valuable to himself and is therefore capable of being more valuable to others.